Hello, and welcome to LMPD's podcast, On the Record with LMPD. I'm your co-host, Officer Matt Sanders, and I'm joined with the other co-host of On the Record with LMPD, Chief Erica Shields. Ma'am, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you, Matt.
Hey, we've been busy the last couple of weeks. I know we've got a lot going on. I don't know if this may be like a 5-hour podcast. Would that be okay with you? We've got a lot to talk about.
I can hear our viewership dropping.
I don't know about that. They love listening to you. You get good information here. I enjoy it. Let's see. You just came from promotions, right?
Oh, it was fantastic.
You promoted some officers to sergeants. We promoted some sergeants to lieutenants.
Fantastic.
That's got to be good.
No, it's great. I enjoy those events so much. It's really positive.
Yeah, and I know it's a big deal for their families to see them moving up in the ranks. Big responsibilities. I like what you said to the families there, and we're gonna post some pictures maybe on our Facebook page of the promotions later.
Good.
So that'll be pretty good. Hey, just for everybody listening out there, make sure you take the second to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. When you like and subscribe, you will be alerted when we drop a new podcast. This information directly affects you in the community. So we had the robbery unit on last time. Sergeant Stillwell, we've made some arrests. You want to talk about robberies a little bit first?
Let me tell you something. Our robbery unit has been knocking it out of the park. There was some serial robbers. They were hitting up Family Dollar, Dollar General, Walgreens. They did one on a spree, and boy, that robbery unit locked it in, got them in custody, got them all charged. They handled other carjackings. Since we've centralized the investigation of robberies, carjackings, essentially, they have done a fantastic job.
So our robbery unit used to specifically take business robberies.
Correct.
Right? That they were in charge of that. And then recently you've made a change in structure under your command to kind of move the carjackings. We talked about this with Sergeant Stillwell. We moved the carjackings over to robbery. So they've been busy, right?
Yeah, they've been knocking it out of the park. And the reason for this is you have to, if someone is going to commit an armed robbery, a carjacking, especially the carjacking piece, they often are flowing from division to division.
Right.
They're crossing the boundaries. And to me, it's right below a level below a homicide. It's the person is engaged in that level of violence. And it's imperative that we throw every resource at solving it similar to we do a homicide. And by centralizing it, we're guaranteeing a certain amount of resources and attention to these incidents because the arrest has to be made, and it needs to be made quickly.
So you feel as the chief, there is a sense of urgency behind this.
Oh, absolutely. And when you start getting into carjackings and home invasions, it's such an aggravated behavior that you've got to jump on it because it's just so it skirts a homicide, and the individuals committing the act, do. And you need to be all over it. And I'll tell you as well, we need the judiciary system to take the prosecutions of those cases that seriously. It's that violent.
So what units besides your robbery unit this can't just be a robbery unit problem, right? It's a community problem, but there's many units on your department that help with these violent crimes. What are some of those units for the listeners out there?
Well, so if we're going to segue, which is a good segue, the Criminal Interdiction Unit is comprised of detectives who are focused on dismantling those organized criminal activities that are driving a lot of these behaviors, particularly when you're looking at whether someone's committing a carjacking, they're committing a robbery or a shooting. Is there a gang nexus, and is it being funded by someone?
Oh, no. Oh, stop right there. You just said the G word on this podcast. You mean to tell me you're comfortable saying that here? The gang. You said gang. I'm just telling you.
Okay. Oh boy, who lined you up? So anyhow, I might have lost my train of thought, but yes. So what you see is you may have a standalone individual just randomly deciding to go rob someone or carjack them.
Right.
But more often than not, what we're seeing is it's a part of a bigger criminal network that's tends to be well funded, and at its core, because I will say that I'm asked a lot about what drives gangs, and I think people want to say, well, it's drugs, and but the reality is no. what drives gangs and makes gangs successful is violence. Drugs help fuel and fund
right.
the violence. But for a gang to be successful, they have to be at the front lines of violence.
Right.
And so our department relies heavily on the Criminal Interdiction Unit to work to dismantle the funders of this behavior.
Okay. So let's bring on our guest now. So our guest is he's the commander of the Criminal Interdiction Unit, or CID, Criminal Interdiction Division, Major Aaron Kroll. Maj, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Chief, good to see you.
Can you just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and through the years of LMPD?
Sure. I came on in 2001, January 2001, under the former Louisville City Police.
Right.
Throughout my career, I've been fortunate to work in a lot of different capacities with used to be the 6th District, now the 1st Division, Portland, Russell neighborhood. That's home for me on the police department. That's where I cut my teeth. Flex, which was a narcotics unit in the divisions at that time, then the Criminal Intelligence Unit, and then homicide and the Public Integrity Unit.
Okay, good.
Multiple stays in each.
You've been around the block a little bit, right?
A little bit, I guess.
Right. Well, it's a pleasure having you. Thanks for being on the show, Chief. I can't wait to get in. You know, I actually noticed something that I saw you two this morning on a press conference. Is that right, ma'am?
Yes, we did a joint press conference with the FBI.
And what was that about? For those that didn't see it.
It's fantastic. So Aaron and his team they work really closely with the FBI and the ATF in particular. And I have to say kudos to you, Major Kroll, because since he took over running CID, he's done a fantastic job of ensuring that we are partnering with those federal agencies at a maximum capacity in a manner that is beneficial to all.
Sure.
I think historically on task forces, you had to be careful that you just didn't lose people into the world of land of federal, and that's not been the case at all. I mean, the FBI and ATF have been phenomenal partners. And so in this particular investigation, it was with the FBI, and it was focused on some high-ranking gang members who are really causing a lot of issues and driving a lot of issues in the city. And he can speak to it, the investigation more so. But it was announcing the indictment of these 10 individuals, the federal indictment. Yep. Okay,
we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But first, you are now the division commander of CID. We're going to call it CID. So there's several units under your command, Major. What are those units? And tell me a little bit about each one, if you can.
Sure, absolutely. CID incorporates multiple units within the Focused Intelligence Unit being one.
Okay.
Which within that is made up of our major case unit, our major case squad. Major case squad, Elemental, our firearms intelligence squads, interdiction, and our task force officers. Like the chief said, we have very close relationships with federal agencies, and we have designated officers that are assigned as task force officers with those agencies.
Okay.
Then we also have our violent crime unit, which is made up of multiple, some people call them street squads, violent crime squads, and their job is to daily, go out and confront violent criminals in the city, whether it be responding to active events, shootings, robberies, carjackings, whatever the case may be. We do a lot of work with homicide and robbery, trying to find wanted suspects, as well as division detectives on division level shootings, trying to locate the people that they're looking for to be able to solve their cases. So we spend a lot of time with that, intelligence gathering as well. It kind of feeds the machine for the focused intelligence side. And we also have our support unit, and we have canine components as well.
That's a big division there. A lot of resources talking to each other. You mentioned the street guys. So these are your guys, for example, they're out finding the dime bags of weed, right? And they're making those good weed arrests, right? And just taking care of the community one dime bag at a time. Is that what your guys are doing? That's what you're telling me?
Couldn't be further from that. No, Matt, you should listen.
We're not focused on that. Your unit's out trying to get some violent offenders in the community, right?
When the chief, asked me to take this position, I feel very blessed that I was asked. It was an opportunity to do something substantial in this city, and things that we have not done effectively, at least not consistently, in the past. The chief made it very clear our focus is going to be violent crime. We're not doing drugs for the sake of drugs. We're not doing warrants for the sake of warrants. We are trying to address to people who are driving violent crime in the city. So everything we do focuses back to that. Now, there's lots of different avenues to get there, and narcotics is definitely part of that. You know, they go hand in hand. But we're not a dope unit. We're a violent crime unit that inevitably works dope at some point.
That's definitely one of the chief's priorities for sure, is violent crime, if not the top one. Ma'am, making Major Kroll in charge of CID was one of the first things you did when you got here. Can you talk a little bit about that? I
knew what I wanted the mission of CID to be, and I knew it was going to be 180 degrees from where they were. And so I spent the first few weeks just really asking around what the various skill sets were of some of the higher ranking officers. So what was the skill sets of some lieutenants and majors, to try to find the right person. And it was very interesting to me when I would communicate what I was trying to, how I envisioned CID. His name was the name that just everybody said, to a person, which is unusual. You don't usually get that level of consistency. Yeah. And I knew when I met him, two things struck out me. I asked him to develop a plan of how he would envision the unit operating. And it was a very well-written plan. It wasn't just
blurb of stuff.
Yeah. It was very thoughtful, and it could be applied, and I could see that I liked that. That was the first thing. And the second thing that I liked was I pushed back on his plan, because a couple of the things in there were not what I'd envisioned. And he spoke up to me, and he said to me, I mean, politely, but still, this is why. And he said to me, this is why I want to do X. This is why X is in my plan. And I appreciated that candidness, because I knew he had a very strong background in the areas I wanted us to focus on. And it does no good to me if someone just goes rubber stamp stuff for the sake of saying, well, she's the chief, so I'm going to go do it. No, I need us to have a dialogue.
Right.
And he gave me that dialogue in the most professional of manners. And I will say this, all right, you run with it, and let's see where this goes. And I will tell you, he has knocked it out of the park. So, wow, thank you.
Yeah, man, that's gonna make you feel pretty good, right? Got a good compliment there.
It's amazing. Can
you imagine?
I don't know that it's warranted, but it's
your candidness is appreciated after all these years
by some people, right?
Finally, you know, I mean, he did spit his entire career here in Louisville, so he knows a thing or two about police work, and it speaks to your character. But let's talk about this indictment from this morning. Now, I know, I don't want you to give secrets away, sure, right? Because I know you do some intelligence gathering. There's some secret stuff to collecting intelligence and stuff, and building casework. So without tipping your hand, can you tell us a little bit about that large scale operation that CID coordinated with the FBI that we were talking about earlier?
Sure. The press conference we did this morning was just to announce the culmination, at least partially, of a close to a year-long investigation.
Okay, wow.
Our the Elemental squad within our Focus Intelligence Unit is primarily responsible, and I want to give a shout out to Detectives Jordan Settle and Ryan Whitford, who have done an exceptional job working that. They've partnered their task force officers with the FBI and have really spearheaded this case all the way through. It's a focused investigation on one of our more prominent, probably one of our top two violent gang groups here in Louisville.
Okay.
And it's, these 10 indictments represent a pretty strong dismantling of the leadership of that organization, the individuals that are putting the money on the streets, that are driving the violence.
All right.
There's a lot, like the chief said earlier, the violence is what makes you legitimate in this game, unfortunately. But there has to be a lot of incentive for that violence. And the people, when there's that much money out there pushing this, it is definitely fueling that fire. So when we're trying to get the individuals who are profiting from it, who are organizing, who are encouraging and paying the individuals who are acting this way, then, that takes, in some ways, the head off the snake. We've got a lot of work to do still, and there will be quite a bit more coming, both with this case and several more to come that are already in the works. So we're excited about where we're going.
Well, congratulations on those indictments. I know that your work's not done, and
Absolutely.
I know you feel that it's not done. How many in total indictments?
There were 10 last week. There's, like I said, there are several more to come.
Okay, good. So we're getting some not not street level guys. We're getting some mid level. We're getting some big level guys here that are driving the violence in this community. Hopefully, we can show that in data, right, ma'am?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, this was a huge win. These were valuable indictments, and I appreciate it because it's huge. And the other thing is, by Major Kroll really fostering this relationship with the FBI, what it affords us is federal prosecution,
right, and
federal judges and federal sentencing.
But why is that important, ma'am?
It unfortunately, the state systems currently a lot seems to be falling through the gaps. And when you're dealing with this level of violence, these folks need to be locked up.
Yeah.
I am not a huge fan of I don't argue for people to be locked up, but for people who are shooting people, killing people, and have no intention in life other than to wreak havoc on other individuals' lives, there's a place for you. And so the federal judiciary has historically done a better job, I feel, at really, when a person is found guilty, of holding them accountable.
You know, these persistent felony offenders that are responsible for dealing kilos of fentanyl and heroin and
shootings. No,
the shootings.
I'm going to tell you something.
Everything.
This is what these are going to be tied back to multiple shootings, and once we start getting some of our DNA moving through it, I would have to think that there'll probably be murders tied to it as well. Okay. So it's not even just, yes, the drugs are an issue, but let's just be clear here. These folks are responsible for much, much greater damage.
Okay. Talk a little bit about, you've talked about this publicly, but talk a little bit about criminal gangs.
So, I mean, yeah. So I don't
What's your commitment to that? I mean,
I have zero tolerance for gang activity. None. And I think it's imperative that we start holding these folks accountable for, in particular, the ones that are leading gang activity and corrupting and ruining the lives of younger people. And, okay, so there's the 12, 13-year-old. I'll go have them steal the guns. I'll have them, sell dope. I'll have them do whatever because for a few bucks, because the kids have nothing. No, we're not doing that. These kids need to have a chance, a fighting chance. And the reality of it is there's so much money in these gangs that they don't give a thought to the fact that they are ruining the lives of children, which is why it's so important for what his unit is doing, because his unit is going after those individuals who are ruining lives. And we need to take a step further because there's big money here. It's crossing state lines, and that money trace, I'm going to be starting leaning in on. All right, IRS, we know these folks funding this aren't claiming this money. Let's be getting them for tax evasion. We have no problem hooking up politicians for mail fraud and tax evasion.
Sure.
How about these people funding gang activity? It's time that we all lock in on this and say enough. We have to take care of our kids, and these folks they don't give a darn about a child.
You've been pretty open about pouring resources into Major Kroll's unit. I mean, allocating manpower. I mean, we're short as it is. I'm just going to state common sense here. We're kind of short, but you're pouring a lot of resources into his unit.
A unit such as his, run properly, can be a game changer in a city.
Okay.
And the reality of it is we are in a crisis mode and we have to be tackling this head on. And so, yes, I do wish we had more resources for multiple reasons. But what he is doing is critical enough, and it's also showing that it's effective. They're getting quality results. So I have complete confidence in the mission and direction of that unit.
Major Kroll, do you attend the shooting review?
CID attends it regularly. Several of us do. I don't go to all of them.
Okay, but your unit is involved in the shooting review.
Absolutely. Lieutenant Thompson and his people go weekly. Okay. Share quite a bit of information.
That's the big thing right now is just information sharing, right? Like years ago, like my unit didn't talk to your unit didn't talk to the chief's unit, and we got nothing solved.
Or even within units.
Exactly. I got my partner, and that's it.
Exactly.
And so now, in order to cut the head off the snake, we have got to share information with the feds. We've got to share information with each other, right? I mean, that's what we're saying.
Oh, it's huge. That's the other thing is, It does no good if the gang information is housed only in his division. The people that are going to see these gang members day in and day out and are going to hold critical intelligence for his division, for his unit, are the beat officers.
The beat cops. I knew you were going to say that.
So the beat cops have to have this information, and not just for that, but for their own safety. You know, that is such a dangerous job out there when you're on the front lines. You're responding to you don't know what. You have to have every bit of information available to you that will make your job safer. And so that communication back and forth is critical. And the shooting review has provided the platform where there is this real-time information sharing. Sure. Is it enough? No. Do we have more to do? Yes. Yeah. But this is, it has been very valuable, and I'm appreciative of it. It's an advancement of where we were from where we were 6 months ago.
Major Kroll, what do you want to say? Just speak generally to the public. Like, what would be something that you'd want to say to the public about kind of your position, your division, kind of the direction you're heading? What's something you want the public to know? Because you're kind of in the background a little bit. Like, you're not on the news. You're not doing press conferences that much.
I do my best.
I mean that in a positive way, though. It's like, if a cop throws a football with a kid, that's viral. Your unit is like in the background gathering data, looking at the dots, looking at the players. Talk to the public for a minute.
A big part of the problem we've had historically here is, like you joked about it earlier, saying the word gang is a no-no.
It was a taboo for sure.
The chief and the mayor's office, for that matter, have got out in front and said, we have a gang problem in this city, and we have to acknowledge that. We can't put the energy and the resources into combating that if we can't even admit we have a problem.
Sure.
So that's the first step, and we're doing that. The chief has been excellent in providing me everything I've asked for and then some.
You're just saying that because she's sitting there. Before she came in, you said you were going to ask her for a bunch of stuff.
Oh, I'm still going to ask her for a bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong.
So she's giving you everything you need to be successful?
She has. And we take that very seriously. We have a unique opportunity. We have the support that I don't think many of us have ever had throughout our careers here. And, that's a responsibility that, we don't take lightly. My guys and girls are out there every day. They put themselves out there. They do it for the people in this community because they care. They care that, unfortunately we had 164 murders, this year. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, but I firmly believe if it weren't for the efforts, we'd be at 200. Yeah. We are making an impact, even though it's not as easy to see right now, but we're laying that groundwork. We're moving forward. Things are going to get better.
Okay.
And we are getting the support that we need to do that.
So you got the ball rolling. Ma'am, what do you expect from Major Kroll and his division? Pretty much what you're getting?
Oh, they're doing a fantastic job. And I can't say enough about how they're making things work, even in a space where they don't have the staffing I wish they had. And again, I also can't say enough about our federal partnerships and partners have just been phenomenal in stepping up and helping us out. It's made a huge difference.
That really has. I mean, for people who, if you haven't dealt with that historically, that's been a very territorial
step around, maybe, or tiptoeing eggshell type thing.
Right? I'll give you a little, but I'm not going to give you it all because I don't trust you. And that's both ways. I mean, we were every bit as bad about it as the other agencies, but we've come a long way. And when I first took over, the chief told me what she expected of me. I met with our federal partners and told them what our mission was and how that was going to work. And they've done everything we've asked them to do. So I couldn't be more pleased with those relationships. And we need each other. That's the bottom line. Neither of us are going to be successful without the other. So we're recognizing that. We're making the most of these partnerships. And I mean, right now we're hitting home runs. And keep doing so.
Is there anything you need to be successful, or do you just need some more time?
I mean, time, definitely. We are moving in the right direction. We are making the moves we want to make. We are not a finished product by any means. We're getting better every day at what we're doing as well. But yeah, these things do take time. They're very manpower and resource intensive.
Yeah.
These cases aren't ones you make overnight. You've got to put the work in. We've got to stay focused and on mission. And we can't allow ourselves to get lazy because it's easy. I mean, the easy path is go out, hit quick licks, collect a bunch of numbers, show all these stats.
Yeah.
But not fundamentally not change anything going forward.
It's a revolving door, right? So I guess what would be important for our listeners to understand is that your unit is doing some of your guys are doing long-term investigations, multiple units, gathering data, gathering intelligence, and to take down somebody that is, high up, to take the head off the snake, as you said earlier, it takes time.
Yeah, and absolutely. We also need, like every other unit that's been in there to talk about, we need help from the community. I mean, when you're talking about intelligence, the people who are living next door and going to school with and working with these individuals know them better than we do.
Right.
We spend a lot of time to learn everything we can, but they're, without the community's engagement, it's an uphill battle.
This is a good segue for me to give a shout out to the tip line. So if you're out there listening, call our anonymous tip line at 574-LMPD. You can remain anonymous. Be as detailed as possible about illegal activity in your area, and we promise you, we read every one. They're not discarded. Ma'am, what'd you think? I think that about wraps it up.
He's a bee charmer. I'm telling you. That's why I put him out in these press conferences.
Hey, he's got a big job ahead, and he's done a great job so far. I love you, man. I've known you my entire police career. I'll follow you anywhere. You let me know if you need another detective.
Absolutely. I love you too.
Major Kroll, thanks for joining us. That is a wrap, and you're listening to On the Record with LMPD. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I can't tell you all enough. Subscribe to our channel. Get this information. It directly involves you. We're talking about with the Chief of Police of Jefferson County of LMPD, what she's doing literally to combat these problems that affect you. So hit that like and follow button. And that's another episode of On the Record with LMPD.